Welcome to the Tech Insider, where we talk to the people who can give you the insights and trends that matter to you in your business. I'm Christine Grail with Leica Geosystems. I'm so happy to have with us today Jason Culp, who is the Director of VDC and Construction Technologies for NOAR Technologies. Welcome to our program, Jason.
Thank you.
So, Jason, you do a lot of work with robotic technologies for construction. And of course, we all like to anthropomorphize a little bit and give some human attribution to our animals or our technology. And I'm just curious if there were one human trait that you could add to the robots that you're working with right now, what would that be?
It would be to actually self-perform and not have to program anything. That would be great. That's the question we get pretty much all the time is, can I just have it, scan the room and print the floor layout for me? So yeah, that would be helpful, but it adds a sense of personality to it when you're actually working on it yourself.
So tell me a little bit about the robot and how it works. Give us some background on, what is this technology?
So what it is that it is a small three-wheel object that basically it carries an ink cartridge on it, has the battery, obviously, and then there's a prism on top of it that communicates with like a total station. One thing is that this robot basically it communicates with a cloud that HP created using a cellular signal. Communicates back with a tablet using a Wi-Fi signal, and then it communicates to the instrument using a Bluetooth signal. So basically, what it is that I make a floor plan drawing in AutoCAD or now in Revit, which is our Autodesk 3D design program with for architects. So we'll create a floor plan layout. You upload that floor plan layout to HP's portal that you actually have the sign-in option for. And then once it's uploaded to the portal, I get on my tablet, and because my printer actually has a cellular signal that communicates with the tablet, instantly that drawing that I just uploaded on my PC will be available on my tablet. So then I just take that tablet, open up what job I want, circle what it is I want to print, because you're going to have that whole drawing in there. I circle what it is I want to print, and then I just say print. And then what it does is it does a calibration. So it drives forward 3 feet, stops for a second, and then it'll go out and start printing the actual floor plan on the ground. The great thing about the HP's version of this, because there's other competitors, but HP's version of it is great because of the fact that the ink is pressurized. Okay. And it drops the ink down from 3/4 of an inch off the ground, which means that your floor doesn't have to be perfectly clean. If there's holes in the ground where you need to put a piece of 1/2 inch plywood over it, you can do that. It'll drive right over it. It has compensators in it so that there's 32 print heads underneath it. And it usually uses 17 because 17 is right in the middle. So what it'll do is if it has to go and drive over a piece of plywood and it comes down like that, what it does is when it goes up like that, there's a compensator inside the robot that will tell it, hey, we need to switch from 17 to 25 to make sure that line stays in the same place going straight, right? And then once it gets over that piece of plywood, it'll switch back to 17. So the printer basically is just to replace having to get down on your hands and knees and snap chalk lines and print out the full floor plan.
Okay, so not too bad. Nothing that completely ruins your day. That's good. I let's back up a minute and talk about why we're even discussing the idea of robots in construction. There are some pretty big challenges that construction companies are facing right now that are leading them to look at robots as the solution. Let's talk about those challenges for a minute. What are the biggest challenges you see right now on construction sites?
Yeah, I mean, the robot actually is, there's 3 or 4 companies out there, but the robots were actually created because of the fact that you've got guys that are on site, they're on their hands and knees all day, chalk lines, and for each point that they have to measure, let's say that they're doing a wall, each point on that wall, the beginning and the end wall, both have to be measured in 2 different directions and laid out, which can take multiple multiple measurements, because you're not always going to get the first measurement. So the robotics, once the surveyor sets control out there, it's a matter of checking into the control, and then you go out and print the whole job without having to double measure everything because of the fact that the printer, electronically already knows where everything's got to be. So it really speeds up time, and it really keeps people from, back aches and knee aches and stuff like that. But um, also, it just the what we've heard from clients, for an example, is one job was the guy told me that it would take 3 weeks and three guys I apologize, 8 days and three guys to complete the job that we did, and we went out and did it on the job site in 3.5 hours with one person. So there's a big need for speed, efficiency, and just overall aches and pains, basically.
I'm sure that you've had some situations that maybe haven't gone quite as you expected, because sometimes technology just doesn't work the way we want it to. Have there been any mishaps or anything on as you're demonstrating or doing a sample project? Have you had any situations that was just a complete mishap with a robot?
The robot itself is pretty self adhesive, where it will run basically by itself once it's set up and it's in the correct location. But yeah, we do have some things like that, but it's generally human error.
Yeah, so now are we talking about robots taking over the work of human beings then? I mean, are we replacing people on the job site?
We're not necessarily replacing them. What it is basically that people have to evolve. Once you create somebody that knows how to use the robotics, instead of them laying out chalk lines on the ground and doing physical labor, they can use their head, and they can take the robot and they can take the file and then print it out. And if you've got three guys on a site right now that are laying out chalk lines, if you take those same three guys and you train them to operate these robots, like one of the companies that has 5 of these robots that we actually deal with, they've got each one of those guys on a different site now. So now you can do more projects faster and more efficiently for just an initial cost of the product.
Probably on a typical job site, that work requires multiple people to do the layout. And now you're able to replace that with a robot and just make sure that it's programmed correctly and all that work is done.
Exactly, exactly, and your accuracy is, better as well because of the fact that, I mean, you're dealing with an electronic item, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of like doing math in your head versus on a calculator on your phone. I mean, it's just faster, and the accuracy is going to be a little bit better. I know that there's some guys out there that would be very, very accurate with their chalk lines and whatnot, but if you think about it, if you go over, 50 feet with a chalk line, if you pull it up and snap it down, who's to say it doesn't go this way or that way, just a 16th before you snap it down? You know what I mean? Like, so it can't always be perfect. So the accuracy also is one of the big benefits to it.
Another challenge that is being faced in construction right now is there really just aren't enough people. And so I would imagine that is the ability to use robots is actually helping to close the labor gap a little bit.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is that the industry now is basically, you have a lot of people that they want their better life for their kids, so they send them to college, they go to college, and then they come out and they don't want to do physical labor, or I apologize, but they don't want to do this very hard, gritty physical labor. So if you add in these cool items like a floor printer or survey equipment or scanners, that kind of stuff, you add that in there, all of a sudden you're drawing the attention of the younger people that are into the tech. That now you're going to have somebody that may be interested in working in that industry because of the fact that they're technically not doing the physical labor anymore, but also they get to play with the cool equipment, and they get to see things expand as they grow.
Sure, and I've seen these robots in action. It's actually really cool to see it. It's almost like driving a remote control car, right? You just see it laying down the lines. It's just doing what it has to do. It's really awesome. Are people jumping at the opportunity to put a robot on their construction site? Are you getting any common questions or concerns from people?
We get a lot of the same thing that we got with laser scanners. You know, when laser scanners first came out, people were like, well, I don't know if I trust it, and I can do it faster just measuring and that kind of thing, right? So we've got those, a little bit of those arguments here and there. But the people that then use them, they're like, I don't know how we did this before. Like, it would have taken us so much longer to do this. So it's just getting over that gap of understanding it's a new piece of equipment, right? So they're going to see it as it evolves, basically. And they, you know, then maybe they looked at it 2 years ago and they were like, it just wasn't quite where we thought it would be. And then now it's advanced like tenfold. So now they, you know, look at it again and they're like, okay, now it makes sense. But yeah, we do get a lot of that just because of, you know, once they don't, you know, people don't want to spend extra money on something that they don't know if they trust or not. But once they see it in action, you know, they're kind of in awe by the fact that, you know, it's possible.
Now, you've done some proof of concept type projects with some schools in the area. You're based in Michigan. You've worked with some schools in Michigan. Are you getting different questions from students who are just learning about the construction trade versus working with a GC or someone else who's actually in the business of construction? Or are those questions and concerns about the same?
Well, the students are more interested, not really. They don't really have a concern, obviously, because they don't have skin in the game. They don't have to purchase the product and everything like that, right? They're looking for a job, not an actual business. So they get excited about it. They understand that they can, hey, I can sit down and design something on AutoCAD or Revit and program it to this computer, and this computer will go out and print everything out, and I can have it ready for everybody tomorrow. You know, the GC looks at it as like, hey, it's a cool new toy, as they call them. A lot of the GCs can be a little bit raw sometimes, but they say, you know, it's a cool new tool. But what would I use it for? You know, why would it help me at all? And then a couple of instances we've taken it on site, and they're pretty amazed. We had one very large company that actually we went out there, we did a demo for them. It was like 2,000 square feet. We had some arcs, we had some line work, we had some points and everything. And I was laying it out, and I got about halfway done, and I started looking down on the floor, and I'm like, what are all these crow's feet? You know, in construction they draw. It's kind of like a half triangle. They call them crow's feet, and it's generally so that at the point of that arrow, that's the point where you want to be, right? So I'm like, what are all these crow's feet for? And the guy kind of smiles and he goes, we laid it all out before you got here by hand just to make sure. And the instrument went through every single one of the crow's feet. So at that point, they were kind of in awe by the accuracy.
Well, and you're really in construction, you're really battling the known versus the unknown. And like you said earlier, people are really trying to decide, can I trust this technology? I mean, we've seen this with AI too. Like, okay, the concept is interesting, but at the end of the day, the work has to be done correctly. So, can I really trust that what this is laying out on the ground is actually where everything needs to be?
Right. And a lot of the guys you get, like for instance, on the line work guys, the guys that are snapping the chalk lines and stuff like that, you know, they see it and then they're worried, like you said, they're worried that they're going to lose their job because you're taking over their job. But in reality, with the one of the companies, for instance, that we sold 5 of these things to one company, and every single one of the guys that was laying out chalk lines, they now operate the robots. So now they're like, hey, this is great, you know, like I got a cool new job. I'm more important now because I know how to do this technology, and I'm not on my hands and knees all day, you know?
Are you encountering any resistance other than that, changing workflows, changing processes? Are you encountering any resistance to moving in this direction? And if so, what do you think that big hurdle is for the companies that just really aren't sure?
It's really just about the old school guys, you know, the guys that have done this for years a certain way. It was the same thing. You know, I did survey for 15 years, and it was the same thing with the old guys there. You know, the old guys, they used a level, they used a chain, all that kind of stuff, right? So when we went to robotic total stations where one person could walk around with the rod and the instrument would follow you, they were very, very speculative about that. They also didn't like the idea that we were taking levels from that because they didn't think it was as accurate as an actual level. Um, but after a little while, it becomes the placemaker. It's everybody uses it now, so now you have to either adapt or you're kind of left behind. They realize how fast it is, then they modify their system and they um, jump on board basically.
Sure. Now you're working with the HP SitePrint, which works in tandem with the Leica Icon robotic total station. There are other layout robots available on the market. It seems like more and more all the time. And so, from your perspective, what is the advantage of using a system like HP SitePrint that relies on that robotic total station technology versus the other things that are out there in the market?
It's the biggest thing is price point. Because there is, for instance, I can think off the top of my head, one of the other competitors has uses a tracker. Well, trackers are about $120,000. And so, you've got a GC trying to convince them of buying a robot, but then also buying this tracker that's, $120,000. And, on that side of it, not to get too far into that, but you're not even allowed to buy that equipment from them. You basically lease it from them. The HP system is nice because you're running a robotic total station and it runs off of, it's a Leica robotic total station that we use, but you can use Trimble or Topcon or whatever you want. But the advantage to that is one, the price point of the instrument is way cheaper. We're around, I think, $27,000 or $29,000 for the instrument. But then also on top of that, that is a robotic total station. So if I need to go pick up points on site, lay out points on site, anything like that, I've got a total station that I use now. And with the HP model and Leica's model, you own that equipment. So once you buy it, you own it. There's no lease. Like you don't have to keep re-signing a lease with them to have the product.
So it really becomes much more economical over time. The more you use it, the more you're saving, not only in just the use of the equipment, but also the productivity gains that you're seeing. I mean, you're talking about significant time savings on the construction site. You're talking about making sure that you are not having to do any rework because as long as it's programmed correctly, it's going to be accurate, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Once, have you ever heard the term garbage in, garbage out? Well, it's kind of like, the only bad instances we've ever had on site is when somebody has really bad control. And that, I don't know why, but that seems to be something really hard to put through to builders or contractors is that you have to have really good control. The one company that we went out and did the print for that did it, that laid it out previously for us, that we went through all the crow's feet, they checked with 3 points, 0.007 of an inch. So very, very tight control, and everything went perfectly. I've had other ones where it checks like half an inch, and the further you get out, the worse it gets. If you're a half an inch, 10 feet away from the instrument, then you're going to be 100 feet out, you're going to be 3 or 4 inches off. So it all depends on how well the site is prepped. So
Well, and I would imagine that's a benefit of working with a company like NOAR Technologies, is that you're available as a consultant as well to help them make sure that they're setting the control correctly and that they're implementing the technology correctly. You're getting them up to speed and training them and making sure that they're going to be as successful as they possibly can be with this technology.
exactly. I mean, the thing that's been great about NOR is the fact that we're kind of like a start to finish, right? So when you start out and the surveyor goes out and takes points out of the ground and or topo and that kind of thing, brings it back to the office, designs it, flies it with the drone, whatever they do. Um, we have two on staff civil engineers that have gone through that process. I was a surveyor for 15 years. We've got another guy that is worked with drones his whole life, and then of course Chad, our owner, he's been in the industry for 30 years now. So I mean, everybody's got really, really good qualities and experience that work with each other. If I can't answer a question about a drone, Tyler can help you out. If Mike can help you out, somebody's always there to answer a question. And with the experience that we have, it's a lot easier. And we're just like everybody else. We learn new stuff every day too. But that's what works with working with so many different contractors and GCs and surveyors is that we learn from them too.
Well, and as you've been working with these companies that have been implementing this robotic technology, we'd like to think that it's seamless and fast and pain-free, but it doesn't always happen that way. What are some of the biggest challenges that companies encounter when they're trying to make that switch from doing things manually to letting a robot take over?
A lot of it is just understanding um, what you need to prep the drawing. It's a lot like when you I relate it to painting a car because I've done that for years and years. Is if your prep work is no good, your job's going to be no good. So basically, what it is it's making people understand like what is Revit, what is AutoCAD. Okay, so now you understand what Revit and AutoCAD are. Now you have to understand when you prep your drawing, you want to make sure you put all your obstacles in there that you can. You want to make sure you have accurate measurements from the day before. You don't want to take a drawing that's 3 years old and try to modify it from there. You want to make sure your site's clean. That kind of thing. So it's really just about, hey, what are all the different avenues that we need to compile into this setup before we upload it to the robot and start printing. So that's really what the challenge has been. But honestly, people pick up on it pretty quickly because it's pretty common sense. I mean, you can't just throw somebody in there that's never used AutoCAD before to prep the drawings. It's too tough. You need to know somebody that knows what they're doing, kind of. But once you get that across, then it's pretty smooth sailing after that.
Is this changing the skill sets that are required on a construction site?
Absolutely. Yeah, because like I said, the guys that were doing this before, they were just, putting a measurement here, putting a measurement here, and snapping a chalk line. That's pretty simple. And now they need to understand how an electronic instrument works. So a lot of those guys, like we've had a couple of guys where this is a perfect opportunity for them because they were way too, I want to say, way too advanced to be just snapping a chalk line. We had one guy from one of the companies, he picked it up like that. And I mean, he's teaching their whole company now. And that was 6 months ago. So, I mean, he picked it up very fast, but there's a lot of them that do that too, and they'll call me once in a while. Hey, I can't get this to hook up or something. It's usually like a sign in problem or something, but it does definitely change the skill set a lot for the better, I would say.
And it sounds like that people, for the most part, are really open to that, that they're really looking for that because, as you said earlier, construction can be really hard work. It can be really hard on your body physically. And so to be able to take some of that away and replace it with problem solving and more creative endeavors and just more programming and things like that, I would think that people generally welcome that change.
Yeah, we've had the guys that are taking over the equipment now. They've been very very excited about it. They're excited to learn a new skill set. I mean, it's really great. Honestly, it's like my kids. Like even when you watch them like learn something new and it hits, you're like, oh yeah, you're really excited for them. And these guys in the field, it's no different. Like because you see like they weren't sure like where they were going to go as far as life goes. Construction, a lot of times people get into it because they get out of school, they don't know what they want to do, so they're like, hey, they need workers, so we'll hop in here and do this. And now they get in there and thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and then all of a sudden they learn this new skill set and they're like, wow, this is really cool, this gives me a good purpose, I've learned a new skill, now I'm more important. It really is pretty cool to see it evolve and see them get very excited about it.
Yeah, we're really seeing the construction industry change from something that required a lot of manual labor to now becoming a very high tech industry. And that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a specific type of company or maybe job site that really lends itself more to these types of robotic technologies? And where's the sweet spot for all of this?
Well, we're finding that large buildings, warehouses, storage facilities, Home Depots, Lowe's, hospitals, schools, those larger buildings like that, especially ones that don't have as many columns in them, stuff like that. And those places right there. I mean, an aircraft carrier, or what do they call them? Hangar would be ideal, but um, We do get a lot of sites that are a little more complicated than others because they have a lot of trades in the way, or they have a lot of columns in the way. But for the most part, the buildings that people are looking for is like, we've had a couple companies that they have warehouse storage facilities where they rent out storage facilities for maybe months or years at a time, and then those people move out, and then new people move in, and they have to reset the columns and everything. And that's where these printers come in great, because they can just go out, lay them out, and then you have different options for ink. So you could do like a 2 week ink that'll last 2 weeks in a high traffic area, which is like a semi-permanent ink. And then you have another one that'll last 6 months in a high traffic area, which is more your permanent ink, right? So it all works out really well with, okay, we're going to have this customer that's going to be in here for 6 months to a year, so we want to use this. We have another customer that's going to be in here for a month, so we want to use this. So it makes it really adaptable to those kind of companies. But yeah, it's a larger warehouses and factories, hospitals, that kind of thing is really works great for it.
Okay, and so it sounds like maybe if you have smaller projects or a lot more complexity, that the layout robot might not be the best fit for those.
It's more like, if you get into like a residential house, I mean, it's not that it wouldn't work for it. It would work. It prints on anything. But the part is that, am I going to spend this kind of money to lay out a house? I mean, most cases, builders, when they build a house, they're going to build the same house over and over and over again. They have 10 plans, and they're going to use that, right? Um, and so they're not going to use a robot to print out a 3,000 square foot house. Just the price point just doesn't make sense. But for a large factory or for a company that's doing a lot of these commercial buildings, it makes tons of sense to them, because they're going to lay out different designs every day, and they're going to lay out multiples. So the price point they can put into the job, and it works out for them.
What about something like curved walls? I mean, can the robots handle things like that?
Yep. Yeah, curves. It does right now. HP, what it does is it does 6-inch radius and larger. So basically, door swings, anything like that, you can do. Now, you can also do text and points up to 2 inches. So basically, if you have a plumbing contractor that's going to come in and cut a couple holes in the concrete to put some plumbing in, instead of putting in a circle for each one, like a 6-inch circle or something like that, we'll just print a point, because the printer can just go right over it, print the point, and it's done. If we're not sure what it is, maybe there's a couple pipes in the ground or something like that, you can always put a little bit of text right next to it, and it'll tell you like, hey, this is a 6-inch PVC for, I don't know, shower or whatever, that kind of thing. So yeah, it can all be kind of adjusted on site. You can also do like dashed lines, solid lines. You have different colors you can print. So there's a lot of versatility in it.
That's impressive. So I'm picturing someone on a construction site, instead of being on their hands and knees snapping those chalk lines, they're actually standing there with is it a tablet? Like, how are they controlling the robot?
So you can use, I always use my laptop at shows, because I can plug it into a TV screen, and then everybody can see what's going on. But yeah, it runs off of a tablet. We have guys that will run it off an iPad, just a regular Apple iPad. Anything that has Wi-Fi, the printer uses Wi-Fi to communicate with that tablet. And then the printer internally has cellular that connects to the cloud, so it knows what it's laying out. And then the robot, what it does basically is tracks the robot to make sure this stays on site.
Okay, wow, this is so fascinating. So you, of course, working for NOAR Technologies, you represent like a Geosystems technology. We talked a little bit about the robotic total station that is used in conjunction with the HP SitePrint, but you're also involved in using laser scanning. Do you see all of these technologies working together? And if so, explain that a little bit.
100%. I mean, we have a lot of architects right now in the Detroit area. They will take these abandoned warehouses, old car factories, and stuff like that. They go in with a laser scanner, usually an RTC, because it has a longer distance. It has like a 900-foot distance. They'll go in with an RTC. They'll scan the whole place, and then they'll take that point cloud. They download it into Revit, and they design everything off of Revit. Now, Revit's an architectural design program, Autodesk program. They'll design it all in Revit, and then HP has now added an add-on to Revit. They already had one for Autodesk, but or for AutoCAD, but they added one to Revit now, where you can actually go in and tell it, Revit basically it works off of what they call families, but like a wall style would be a family. So you'd have like your outer drywall, and then you have your vapor barrier, and then you have your stud lines or whatever. Revit and that HP app will let you break that down and say, okay, I only want the studded walls line. So then it'll export that into HP, and then you can just print the studded walls. So then in that case, what you could do is, hey, let's say I'm not sure if the printer printed it right. Well, then I just take my total station that's running the printer. I go out with a prism and a rod, and I just take a couple checkpoints. Everything looks good. All right, cool. And then after the building's done, everything's been built. You come back out, you scan it again, and you create an as built off of it. So it all really works together, integrated very well. And also on top of that, if you wanted to fly a drone over top or fly the fascia of the building, because they're going to redo that too, you can create a point cloud with that. You can combine it with the scans that you did inside the building, and then you've got an actual outside and inside full model of your building that you can design off of.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Have you worked with any companies that are actually doing that entire workflow? I mean, I know that's really high tech at that point where you're incorporating all of that technology. Are companies doing that now, or is that still a vision for what's possible?
No, we have an architect right now that we work very close with. He's a great guy, but he actually is working on the Fisher body plant right now, and that's what they're doing with that. Is that they've scanned the outside. We scanned the roof for him, and then showed him how to scan inside the building and whatnot. And he's using that all to basically too. They're using those scans to find out what kind of codes they need to change. Obviously, back in the 1900s, the codes weren't the same as they are now. So when he's updating these buildings to become these high rises, he's like, okay, this stairway has too much of a pitch, so we've got to redo this stairway, figure out where we're going to relocate this, that kind of thing. So yeah, he's using it and he loves it because it just makes his job so much easier and faster. I mean, architects, they're busy, so for them to be able to just take something and bring it in, not have to go back out to the site to measure it again, like, because that's the thing, if you forgot a measurement out there, and you did survey where you just picked some points, you're going to have to go back out there and pick up those points again. Where this is, same thing with, we work with public safety. Public safety, if there's a car accident, you can't go back out and recreate the car accident. You've got to have all the information. So the scanners actually encapsulate all that information. And anytime they need to go back to it, they've got a measurable point cloud that they can go off of.
Sure. Well, going back to construction, I mean, you're really talking about an industry where rework was assumed. It was kind of built in to the timeline, built into the price of the project. And now with technology, we're almost getting to a situation where you can eliminate a lot of that rework just by applying technology in the right way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, if you think about even chalk lines, for instance, somebody lays down a chalk line and the wall's not right or something like that, they have to go back out, erase everything, all that kind of stuff, where with the site print, we go out there, we spray it down with a little bit of Windex. If it's the temporary stuff, especially, spray it down with a little bit of Windex, take a Swiffer, swiff it up, and then go and reprint again. So it's really it's created a great advantage over kind of different paces. Obviously the chalk line will wear off after a little while, but if you're in the middle of a project, you kind of want to make it so that it happens right away.
So, Jason, you mentioned your background in surveying, and now you're with NOAR. What advantages do you believe the Leica Geosystems brand brings to the market?
I mean, Leica's a huge name, right? They've been around for years, so their development process is just so integrated and so in depth. The equipment that they release is just it's always something better. RTC scanners, you can't really find one that's as good, as fast, and at that price point. Their total stations, they're constantly upgrading and advancing with those. We've got what they call an icon, right? They have another series too that is actually just for survey. Icon is more for the inside building industry. Then now they just released a couple more instruments that are more geared towards that are a cheaper price point, also smaller, lighter, easier to carry around, and those are geared more towards cabinet installation guys or tile setters, that kind of thing. So it keeps them on their toes, and that technology keeps advancing for different companies. I mean, they see like all these struggles in the industry, and they just create another product for it. So that's where Leica, I think, really kind of boosts over. And they've got their hands in a little bit of everything, medical equipment, cameras, that kind of thing. So they know the technology from ins and outs. For instance, their scanner, the one RTC scanner, you get a 360 image with the scans as it's scanning. And at the same time, a lot of the competitors, they don't have that camera integrated into the scanner. So it just, they really just keep studying and advancing. They take us every time they come up with a new product. They want us to come down and visit their headquarters and go through all the training and stuff before they release it, that kind of thing. So they're really on the ball about getting their people in the know and educating their people so that so we can educate the public.
Well, and you mentioned the new technology. I think you were probably referring to the ICS 20 and ICS 50, the visual measurement technology, right? That's completely different, something the industry hasn't seen before. So it'll be fun, not funny, but fun to see where the industry takes that, I think. So, Jason, it sounds like you are the person that people should reach out to if they have any questions about construction technology. What most excites you as you look to the future?
Just, it's like seeing everything come together, seeing the stuff advance as it goes. Just like I said before, seeing the people that are learning it get so excited about it. That's why I came to NOAR. Before I worked here, I had met Chad years ago through a training session and stuff like that with another company I worked for. But I was working in the actual service industry, right? So I was doing survey, I was doing CAD work, all that kind of stuff. And what it was is that I was setting up all the templates and all that kind of stuff for Civil 3D and whatnot. So for me, I was in this office and I'm teaching all these people how to use this template or what they need to be added into it and that kind of stuff. So it got me excited, like training people. So to me, the most exciting thing now is taking this new technology. As soon as we get it in, we have to learn it, and then we go out and teach everybody. And it's exciting to see them, their minds start ticking on like, hey, how can this work for my job site? How can this work to get me more work? That kind of thing. So seeing people just get really excited about how it can bring in more money, more revenue, and more clients for them. That's the part that really gets me pretty excited.
Well, and that's what it's all about, is creating those new opportunities, right? It's
Yeah,
exciting
I
to
mean,
see.
everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to make a living, right? So, and to be able to do it an honest way and help other people out while you're doing it, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, and there's so much work available, so much construction happening, so much that needs to be done still. And so to be able to use technology to do it better, faster, more accurately, that's a really good thing.
Right. I mean, it's like, with the construction industry, the faster you can do something the right way and move on, the more money you're going to make. Right. And so that in that industry is very helpful. And with these printers, I see like, even if you had a company that had multiple job sites and you only have one printer, you send somebody out, they print on it, and then they head to the next site, and then they can start working on that job, and then they print out the next site and move on and on and on. So that part just really helps them, just kind of advance and get in jobs quicker, get out of jobs quicker, and make sure that it's right and on time. I mean, this printer is an eighth of an inch accuracy. So most builders are not going to build that close. I mean, we want to, but in most cases, there's hiccups here or there. You're not going to build to an eighth of an inch. But if you do, great. And anything that comes out more better than what it should is the right way to go. So
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I've really enjoyed our discussion, and I hope to have you back on the program again at some point in the future.
yeah, great. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Be sure to check out the description for additional resources on this topic. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like. If you'd like to see more of this content, be sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Tech Insider.